Welcome to Capes, Cowls, and Conversations. It's the road to Daredevil Born Again. We are finally doing that Punisher episode. Are you guys ready? Are you ready to do Punisher?
I am ready to defend my statement that I like this way better than Jessica Jones.
Oh, I like it way better than Jessica Jones. Also,
Cam's the complete
I
opposite.
do not care for the show.
well, first things first, before we get started, I just want to say that all respect to the military and our servicemen and women. Thank you for your service, domestically and globally, and everything that you do. Any comments made here obviously are not directed toward our service people in any way whatsoever. This is just a commentary on Punisher. It covers some very, very serious topics. We had a phone number if you have any bad thoughts or are in any kind of crisis. There was a phone number at the beginning of the episodes. We'll put it again at the end of the episode. Please reach out if you need help. And with that, Punisher on the road to Daredevil, Born Again.
Yep.
I'll let you guys discuss because episode 1 already messes with me, like going into the show.
Episode 1 was fine with me. Like, okay, so he goes in, he basically finishes up the rest of the mafias that are in New York. Yes, he burns his vest and basically burns the Punisher logo, but he's basically somewhat done at that point. Like he thinks he's
done for sure.
He thinks he's done completely.
He thinks he did his job and he's got to move on. And honestly, for the show as a whole, for 13 episodes, I think it was a stretch to bring the storyline the way that they did. The way that they said, oh, wait, I thought that Daredevil closed up his story anyway, personally.
Yeah.
And so for them to come back and be like, wait, actually, it was military that did this to you.
Yeah, but it was an interesting what was it? It was an interesting twist, and then they delve deep into it, like all the backstory, which the flashbacks really did help kind of bridge the gap there.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it was interesting. I'm just saying it just seemed like we told a story in Daredevil and we kind of closed a loop. He killed all the people that killed his family. And suddenly he didn't kill all the people that killed his family. And it was like,
yeah.
Okay.
Literally my whole problem with this show. And it starts with a decision made in the first episode. That is burning the Punisher logo. Him quitting makes no sense. I thought it was
why?
Because at the end of Daredevil, he had killed, like you said, it made it seem like he had killed everyone involved. So at this point, this was his declaration of war against all criminals. This should be him going after all crime now, not just. But I went and finished off the people who killed my family and then I quit. I
disagree with you 100%.
That's not Punisher.
No.
That's not Punisher. Punisher doesn't just quit after he kills the people. Like, that's from a comic book standpoint. So this is, and I'll label it this way. I think this is a good show. I do not think it is a good Punisher show. I think this could have been a lot shorter, and I think it could have been a lot neater. But Punisher quitting does not make sense.
So I disagree with you. I disagree with you because there's not a reason. I haven't read the comics, but there's not a reason for him to have a vendetta against crime.
But that's what he does.
Okay, but that doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
He hunts different people. He goes after different criminals after this whole thing.
No, and that's great. And I think if this had continued, they were obviously going to keep continuing his story because there's a Punisher season 2.
Well, yeah.
True.
And so maybe they find that maybe Wilson Fisk, whatever he did in Daredevil, gives him a reason to go after more people than just the people that killed his family. But the contained story of killing his family doesn't really give him a reason to go after anybody else. Like, you close the loop. Why would he go after Joe Blow, who just robbed grandma on the street? He doesn't care. He has no buy into that.
Well, he does care. Like, he does care. He goes out and kills criminals. All criminals. That's why he killed the guy who sold him the guns as soon as he found out that he sold child pornography. As soon as he found out, he straight up murdered him.
Well, he did, but
he
it was
also
in the
had
act
kids
of.
of his
And actually,
own.
he discusses in this show that he kills all criminals indiscriminately. It is for like he kills criminals. He was telling Micro he was going to kill any criminal he came across. He never does really because he doesn't actually go after any criminals other than the military.
Well, he was also trying to stay hidden, so
Well, that's another thing. Like faking his death is another issue I have with this because if they hadn't faked his death, I feel like the kid that turns evil would have made way more sense if he was at because like in episode 10 or episode 9, he tells Frank that I agree with your mission and we're on the same side and we're doing the same things. And he's like, well, first of all, he never said anything about. He didn't know really anything about Frank. Frank was confirmed dead.
But he knew him from the mission before.
Yeah, but
He knew him from the Daredevil stuff.
because he was dead, because he was effectively dead. Nobody was talking about Punisher, and I feel like that would have helped with his narrative if they were like, hey, we're gonna keep this guy's legacy alive. We're gonna go be the new Punishers. You know, they didn't do that. And again, I actually brought this up to Connor. This is the one thing I thought was fine from The Dark Knight was that I actually really would have liked if they just straight up stole the Punisher logo. Like if they just abused it. That's why he goes, like part of the reason he goes after him, because and that's a comic book storyline is he goes after people who abuse his logo and take his mission and apply it to different stuff that isn't what he believes in at all.
And I believe that could have been the future. The thing is, he believed in what he thought the Punisher was doing. In my opinion, he believed in what he thought he was doing. He didn't really understand what the Punisher was doing in the first place, and so he needed that incitement from someone else. And I can't remember the guy's name, but he wasn't actually incited by Frank.
No,
He was incited by that guy who
O'Connor.
kept showing up, who had stolen valor and had never actually served in the military or whatever.
but that's what I'm saying. O'Connor, who turns the kid, I think his name's Lewis.
yeah, it's Lewis something.
If they have, I think it was Lewis Wilson or something. I don't remember. But
Anyway.
either way, if O'Connor had been the one that was like inspired by Punisher and then indoctrinated this kid and then they stole the logos and then he ended up killing him once he found out that he was stolen valor, I think that would have been more interesting than what we got. What we got was fine. I will say this is a good show, but as far as a Punisher show, it just does not feel like Punisher.
It's a really good show. If anything that I thought was maybe problematic about the show, it was that there was so much focus on the girl.
Madani?
Yeah, Madani. There was so much. It was almost like a Madani. You almost could have called the show Madani and Castle or something. Frank and Madani show.
I think we got to episode 10 and I was like, there's a lack of Punisher in my Punisher show right now.
There's a whole lot of Madani in that show. And that's okay. That's okay because they rounded it back out with them. But there for a while, it just felt like the Madani show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also Frank and Micro's wife. There was a whole lot of that.
I got tired
There
of
really
it so
was.
fast.
I
I knew
didn't.
where it was going.
I
though.
thought it was nice because it was basically, it was almost kind of as if the Lieberman family kind of like filled the gap that he was missing from whenever his family got killed.
Yeah, I do agree with that. It made him feel like he could have a family again, I think.
Yeah.
Which I don't think he ever felt up to that point. Like he could ever have a family again.
Which that also, I will say the one thing that did kind of make me upset was whenever towards or right at the very end of the last episode,
Thanksgiving.
yeah, the Thanksgiving, he just basically just not necessarily chickens out, but he's like, this isn't really for me.
I
at all.
didn't get it actually because if his whole point was that he was finally starting over, right? Why didn't he walk through the door? That was his chance to start over because he was effectively quitting as Punisher again. That's another thing I really don't like about the finale.
He quit
And
twice.
That's why I don't like the opening. If he doesn't quit in the opening, it makes it more effective in the ending when he quits again. I don't like that he quits and then he quits again.
Does that what actually happens? Does he actually quit again? Because I thought he knows that his buddy isn't dead.
He
knows
they
he's not
imply-
dead. He's not back. He's like in a coma.
Yeah, but they implied he was done as the Punisher. Like he takes on being Pete Castiglione. Like he's done being Frank Castle.
Okay.
So that's why
I guess
that's why I'm like, I don't understand why you had him quit twice if that's the case, because he ends up back at square one by the end of the show anyway. He was already kind of leaning towards going back with Curtis before Micro found him. So now we really have just full circled and gone back to episode 1.
I'm
guess.
so glad Curtis didn't die in the entire show.
You know, I actually thought something. I had a very funny thought about Curtis's role, and it was my thought was, is Marvel stereotyping black military men?
Oh, you thought he was Falcon for a second.
I did. I looked at him. He's got the same Falcon hairstyle. He's got the Falcon facial hair. He's helping those soldiers out in therapy after the war. After their fighting is over.
This does have a very Winter Soldier feel to it.
I mean, it
does.
very much felt like Curtis. The thing that I didn't like is that Lewis was able to come in and just whip Curtis. Like, that to me made no sense. I don't care if he's got a hurt leg. I've got a hurt leg.
Actually,
I mean, I've got a really hurt leg.
It made it more embarrassing when Billy shows up and does the exact same thing the next episode, like 2 episodes later. Like, this is really, like, I feel like you're underrating.
Well,
Lewis,
and to be fair, it may
Curtis
have
a
been
lot.
like 2 episodes later, but it was also like a week after
Yeah.
the whole entire thing. So,
But I just felt like that did him a disservice. Like, he's a big dude anyway.
yeah.
Hurt leg or not, he's a big dude. Some scrawny little misfit's not just going to come in and wipe the floor with him.
No.
I both love and hate episode 10. I can't wrap my head. I like what they did with Lewis. I like the ending of that episode. I hate how he got there. I hate all of the like murder mystery aspect to it, because I would have just preferred it to be a straight line. I also don't like the way they treated Brett, because Brett doesn't just make up a story about a character and then just like accuse them. He goes for facts, and he had a narrative that he was trying to follow. I like that Madani calls him out on it, but that's not Brett. He's never been his character from Daredevil. So that was weird. And then I didn't like Karen the whole show. I don't know. She was more annoying here than she was in Daredevil.
I thought Karen was fine in the show because it also like it gave another person for Frank to basically care and trying to protect, because he obviously cares a lot for her.
He does.
I guess I don't think he needed that though. He had like 5 or 6 other people he already cared about. She just felt like she was forced in just to have a connection back to Daredevil.
I mean, I see what you're saying. I don't feel like she was forced in.
Well,
I thought they used her appropriately. Like, she was forced into Defenders. You could have left that whole police station
really
scene
was.
out, and it would have changed nothing.
Right, but Defenders was more about the character.
At the
but
same time, it was nice seeing all the side characters kind of go and meet each
Yeah,
other. And just
hear
be
me out.
around.
It was nice, but it was unnecessary taking that out. And I don't feel like taking it out was the wrong thing. I feel like using them more was the right thing. We talked about this in the Defenders episode.
Yeah.
Karen and Trish being in the same room should have started something that could have carried throughout this whole Defenders universe, and it didn't, and that was a miss.
Imagine if they started a radio show together.
or something, right?
Yeah.
But I'm saying, so Karen didn't actually serve a good role in the Defenders. I felt like her role here, she was actually used about the appropriate amount. You don't want to oversee Karen in this, but you do want to have a little bit of a tie back. So I don't think she was forced in too much, in my opinion. But
I think my issue stems from how many people in this show tell Frank not to do the things that Frank does. And she is another character that does that. She just has less screen time. And I feel like that was either she needs to replace a character and stay for the whole show, or she needs to not be there.
That's kind of her thing. She's the same way with Matt. The whole time he's Daredevil, she's like, you need to stop doing this.
That's what I'm saying. She
You're an
either
attorney.
needed to be a main character and be doing that the whole show and replace one of the other characters that's doing that in the show, or she needs to be cut from the show.
Nobody
think
else
they
was doing
only-
that in the show.
No,
Yeah,
but-
Micro was doing that. Madani straight up did
Well,
it a couple
Micro
times.
finally like switched.
Curtis.
She couldn't though. She couldn't replace Micro or Madani.
No, that's what I'm saying.
That's
She
why I'm saying
probably
she
just shouldn't have
served
been there.
about the right amount of time.
I don't know.
for
Maybe
the
it's
purpose.
personal preference.
I think the only reason why I think that
Deborah
they
Ann
would,
will not watch our podcast because of you, and she's gonna hate on you.
I don't
forever.
hate her.
It's
I
done.
love
It's
her,
done.
but I just don't love her in this
It's
show.
done.
I think they only had Karen in here is because they probably just want to have some type of connection since she did help him through his court case
Right.
for
No,
the
Yeah.
rest of Daredevil season 2.
I think that's right. I don't think they overused her. Like if she was in every episode, if he was checking in with her, I would have had a problem with that.
Oh.
But the little bit that she's in there, just
Yeah.
from
No, it was perfectly fine.
I think it was good.
So I did. What did I like?
I can't remember. You were basically
Trashing it the
no,
whole
He
time.
I
was trashing
I was
it
not
the entire
trashing it
time
the
whenever
entire
we would
time.
go
I
to
was going
watch
back
it.
and forth because there was things I really liked, and then there would be things that followed up that I really didn't like, and that would happen like every single episode. There'd be times where like you're watching Billy and Madani, and I'm just like, I don't want to see this. I don't want to see this. And then you're like, then you come back to Frank, and it's like, okay, we're back to that was another thing. This show is 13 episodes long. It really didn't need to be.
It probably didn't. They kind of dragged out the Frank and Micro stuff in the bunker
Yeah.
for a long time, where he
They
had Micro
really did.
like where he had Micro tied to that chair.
It's another thing that makes Frank quitting at the beginning of the show another like just annoying thing because he doesn't wear the Punisher logo for most of the show. So I'm like, why is he? Why? Just I want him to be Punisher. He's not being Punisher. He's just being Frank in a bunker for 90% of the show.
Well, and that is true. I feel like they were trying to emphasize the fact that he didn't want to be Punisher, but he wanted to complete a mission.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean,
Because once he
I don't-
found out about the video and whatnot, he was like, okay, what's going on? Who's responsible for this?
Yeah, and I'm not saying that's comic accurate. I'm just saying that's what I think they were trying to get across in the show is he has a mission. He's going to fulfill that mission. He's not going to
Yeah.
die.
Yeah.
Like you just can't kill the guy for whatever reason. He's not going to die till that mission is complete. And he doesn't really, that's not the life he wants. And I think the flashbacks with his wife over and over again kind of
Yeah.
show you like he didn't really want to be Punisher. He wanted to be with his
Though
family.
they
He would have been
did-
fine dying.
They did
but
really overuse that in episode 12.
there was
there was a
That
lot of
was way
flashbacks.
too many.
Kandahar was nice to see though. We got a description of it in Daredevil season 2 in the courtroom.
Mhm.
It was nice to see the scene,
sure.
but other than that, some of the flashbacks probably could have been cut just for the sake of not dragging the show on for as long as they did.
It
I will
definitely
say-
shows you the difference in directors' way of doing things because when we're talking about Daredevil season 2
Yeah.
and Elektra or no, it wasn't Daredevil, it was
Defenders.
Defenders and Elektra trying to figure out who she was. And we're like, they could have used a couple of flashbacks to just kind of show her
They
thought
really
process and
could
stuff.
have.
Or an
And then-
episode of just her.
And then you go to Punisher, and it's flashback after flashback
Oh,
after
yeah.
flashback. You can tell a difference in
But
director
see, it's like-
preference there.
It's not enough to make me hate the show.
No, absolutely
It
not.
still
Oh.
is like, to me, again, still much better than Jessica Jones season 1. Like, okay, it was an okay show, but it dragged on and it felt way longer than watching all 13 episodes of Punisher.
I mean,
crazy.
I have to be fair to Jessica Jones. I actually like season 1. I do. I like this better just because I feel like the action is better. I don't
The action is way better.
See,
I don't like the action in Jessica Jones because it's mostly mental stuff. We've talked about that.
No,
Yeah.
yeah. But in Jessica Jones, I feel like at least when it can justify its 13 episodes because the story follows the same story for 13 episodes. there's so many things happening in this show, and some of them don't really need to be seen as much as they are. Like, for instance, we know that we know as the audience that the guy dies, that his buddy dies on the hill, right? I don't think we need a scene of Madani going back to that hill. They could have figured out.
They could have implied it.
I
Yes.
hated that. I really liked Gunner.
They
Yeah.
I don't know. They really shouldn't have killed him off.
There was a couple of scenes with Madani that they could have just completely implied without shoving the scene of them doing all that in our face.
Well, you have to. I mean, you do have to acknowledge they had 13 episodes to fill, and I agree with you. They maybe should have done 10.
yeah.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying, at the end of the day, they had to fill 13
It
episodes.
was a contractual obligation. Yeah, I get it.
And that means you're going to stuff some stuff in there that you don't need. You could have implied, but man, we got to put 5 minutes of video in there somewhere.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I agree with you. There were several things that could have been implied in there.
And also, I don't know what it is, but I just really like military action. I really do. But also,
So you're Call of
props
Duty,
to-
not Fortnite.
I'm more Fortnite now, but that's because I don't think Activision knows what they're doing at this point. But that's a rant for a completely other video if we do that. But no, props for the character development with how they went to go deal with the one guy that was in like a secure military base or whatever. And he was like, Frank was literally like, I do not want to kill anyone that I don't have to. And he comes across a younger active military kid. And that whole entire interaction, he's like, calm down. I don't want to hurt you whatsoever.
I like that after he shoots him, he looks like he's about to puke. Like he just like,
Yeah.
it was such a moral disgrace that he looks like he's about to just lose it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that. That was good. That's another thing where I'm like, though, that Frank wouldn't quit unless something like that happened, where he accidentally or semi-intentionally
Maybe
killed an
that's why
innocent
he
person.
did quit at the end, because he probably thought back and I was like, okay, it's either I keep doing this and have to like make the hard decisions if it comes to that point, or I just stop doing this entirely.
Maybe, but it's just
Yeah.
not stated.
I think one of the things that I love the most about this show is that they tackle real issues.
They really do.
They tackle real issues, whether it's Lewis. Lewis is the kid.
Yeah, Lewis is the kid.
Lewis with the feeling that America abandoned him
Mm-hmm.
after his service. That I believe is a real issue. When they talk about stolen valor, that is definitely a real issue. We just had a vice presidential candidate who was accused of stolen valor.
I did not know about that.
Yeah. And so, those kind of things are real issues. PTSD is a real issue. The need for therapy, the need for veterans to have better resources and not be forgotten after they're done, and not to have that feeling of they used us and now they don't want us and they don't want to take care of us. I feel like those are real issues that it tackled. And something that a lot of people aren't aware of. And I hope it doesn't get lost in this show that those are real issues.
Yeah.
I don't want people to look at the show and be like, oh, well, it's just a Marvel TV show. That's not real. Some of that stuff is very, very real.
Yes, it really is.
I like the moment where he brings up his dad. He's like, I don't want to get my dad hurt or something like that. And he's like, you did. The second that you did this, he's going to have stuff painted on his car that says terrorist.
Right.
Or like you've screwed his life up.
Right. Your decisions do affect the people around you. It's not just you it affects.
Yeah. I did. That was a good moment. Or was it he didn't want his dad? Don't bring my dad into this. I don't want him brought into this. And he's like, you brought your dad into it the second that you did this.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was trying to think of something because there was another thing. Oh gosh, what was it? I had it and then I just completely blanked.
I'm sorry. It's probably when I cut you off a second ago. I didn't mean to do that.
Probably. No, I don't think it was. Oh gosh, what was it? Because now I'm going to be frustrated if I can't remember it.
Well, I'm gonna go back to what you said about the Frank can't die thing, because I think it's funny that Frank Gallo, I can't remember the main villain's name. It was like Agent Orange or something, but it's Frank Gallo.
Rollins.
Oh, Rollins, yeah,
Yeah.
He's Frank Gallo in Suits.
Okay.
Yeah, but I was like, he gets stabbed in the heart in one scene, and then just continues to pound Frank.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
repeatedly.
Yeah.
And I'm like, maybe that was adrenaline, because he used an adrenaline shot to wake him up at one point. But
This episode
what?
is the most confusing episode that they could have ever
hotel?
written. Yes.
The 10th episode?
Yes, because they had they basically made it a multiple choice scenario, and only one of them was like, oh, this is what actually happened.
Yeah.
It was
You got it.
Oh
You were getting
gosh.
stories that people were telling, and they weren't true stories at
No.
first. Like the
I think
The
the first
senator-
one,
so
yeah,
the
the
senator
senator was the
starts
first
with-
one they
yeah.
interviewed.
and he makes it out like he helped out, like he was trying to fight too. And
Yeah.
then, and then Karen's like, no, that's not what happened.
It started with Brett describing the scene as Frank helping Lewis. And
Yes.
yeah, and,
Yeah,
then,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then it jumped to the senator saying, "Oh well, I've never used a gun before, and I mean I had to kill one of them, and it's just it was
He
weird."
did
And
not.
it's like, dude,
Even when
okay.
they were like actually recreating what he was saying, he did not hit anyone.
No, and then I love that Karen comes in and she's like, yeah, that didn't happen.
None of
He
that
just
happened."
ran away, and there's no good picture painted from him. And then you get Madani's story where she lies because she's kind of forced to. She doesn't know who to trust. So she's being as honest as she can be, so she doesn't get a full perspective. And then you come back full to Frank and Karen's full perspective. But and while that was creative,
I actually like choices like that. I like when they make some choices to make you think you're going one direction with the story, and then it comes back and it's not what you thought.
yeah, I just didn't like the character they did it with. I feel like they turned Brett into a joke of a detective doing that when he is a very, very good detective. He was shown in both seasons of Daredevil. He was in Jessica Jones. I actually think he's been in every single show so far. And he's always doing his job well. And then suddenly he's crafting this narrative that Frank Castle is the bad guy helping Lewis. And I'm like, that's not him. He's looking for the facts. He'd be asking the questions, not directing a narrative and trying to get people to say Frank Castle was helping Lewis.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah,
is what
but
he
doesn't
did.
Karen call him out for that?
That's what I was saying. Madani and Karen both call him out for it, but he's not the character to do it in the first place. So it felt really out of place for him to be the one that they chose to do that with. In fact, if you said Madani, or this episode was earlier on in the show and you said Madani was the one saying Frank was helping Lewis, I'd be down for it. And then you have to like convince her that that's how, she has to side with Frank because he's a good person. But using Brett to do that felt really out of place. And then Brett never returns for the rest of the show.
I do see what you're saying, but also Brett has the experience of Daredevil season 2.
He does, but
So he has that negative
that's-
feeling about Frank. It's not the end of Daredevil season 2 is not that Frank turned out to be the good guy. It's that Frank died.
Yeah.
And so it's not like he left Daredevil season 2 with Frank being, oh, I can trust this guy.
See,
He's a good vigilante.
I don't buy that. I don't even buy the death thing, by the way. That is so loose because he comes back at the end of Daredevil season 2 and shoots the guy.
But from a rooftop where nobody could really see him. Only Matt could see him.
But yeah, see him.
And who's Matt going to tell?
Right, but
I
the
saw the
body-
Punisher up on that roof. Really, blind guy?
See, but the thing is that wouldn't matter because analyzing the bodies, I mean, he used all the same weapons for the entire show. they would be
I
able
don't
to
remember
know.
seeing him use that sniper until the final episode.
Did he not use a sniper in the show? He
I don't
used
think so.
several different types of guns.
He
in the
did, but I
show.
don't remember him using a sniper until the end.
It's just like, of all the people to use a sniper, you would think it would be Frank Castle. There's no one else in the middle of New York using a sniper rifle like that.
That's not an unfair statement.
Yeah.
But you can't just assume.
Oh, and they never found a body. I'm sorry. That's just all those little things adding up, and
You
you're
still
like,
can't just assume it.
It's just.
I mean, at the end of the day, they didn't find his body, but his body was at a location where there was a giant explosion. So you maybe should not find a body.
Right. Except, then you find out his colonel was killed like the same night, a few hours later. And then all of his weapons were stolen out of his. I'm just saying, like,
my whole point though is Brett didn't leave Daredevil season 2 with a good feeling like he has for Daredevil. He left it with Frank Castle still a vigilante who just randomly kills people.
True, and
so he doesn't have the reason
crazy at the end.
He doesn't have the reason to trust him or have good feelings about him in that way. So maybe leaving. I know that I did not watch Punisher season 2. This will be my first time when we get to it. So maybe in that season they have a better relationship. I don't know. I never got there.
Who knows? Also, I finally remembered what I was going to say.
Okay, good.
The scene where they find where Rollins is hiding at. I honestly thought the episode was going to end right there. And then Frank fires the shot from his rifle and it just
hits
bounces
the window.
off the window. And we're like, okay, he has bulletproof glass on that entire building.
Yeah.
I literally was like, they're not going to kill him right here.
I
right?
thought they
if they did,
were.
well, for me, I was like, if they do, then either Lewis or Billy are the main villains for the rest of the season. Like, that's nuts.
Well, he killed him the next. He killed him the next
you get
episode.
to episode 10 and then, Lewis goes out with a bang. And
the Lewis does die in the next episode.
Yep.
But yeah, that
was an intense ending right there.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was a weird episode because episode 10 is the one where I was like, that's where I flip flop the most because on one hand I'm like, this is kind of annoying to go back between these perspectives over and over again when it could have just been a straight line narrative, and I think I would have preferred that better.
This was a gruesome fight. Like, oh my gosh.
I think everything in this show
everything
was gruesome.
but this final fight between Frank and Russo,
I literally told
it was probably one of my favorites.
Which scene was it? I think it was the death of Rollins, where I was like, hey, remember when this show remember when I said these were tame?
Yeah.
I think we crossed that line.
Yeah, this is definitely more gruesome than anything Daredevil put together.
Oh, by far.
But I think it needed to be the most gruesome
For
with this particular scene. At the same time, though, the amount of times, I know why he's angry, but the amount of times he bashes his face into that glass is crazy.
And then also just like scrapes the side of his face against it.
The scream was visceral. It
really
rough.
was.
Yeah.
But by far the best fight scene in this entire show. For me, anyways.
I agree. I wish there was more Punisher killing criminals, though. That's my only thing, as it doesn't feel like he actually really punishes that many people.
Well, once he finds out that what he did wasn't the end, and now he knows who actually was behind the murder of his family, it makes sense that he would just only target them because that's basically his top priority, because that's what originally sparked him becoming the Punisher.
I agree, but I still think he would be punishing other criminals in the meantime whenever he has off time, not just sitting around and waiting.
Yeah,
for
but
stuff.
the off time that they used was for tracking the people he was going after.
Yeah, I think maybe if he's not in a series, I think maybe if he was in more of a
special presentation,
Criminal of the Week.
Oh, Criminal of the Week.
If he was in more of a Criminal of the Week series, that would make sense. But to bust other criminals, but you got an overarching criminal.
Oh,
You know what I'm
this is it.
saying? Like
that
like
is-
any Flash episode.
That is why I actually like Jessica Jones, though, because even though she is following the baseline plot, she still does some PI work outside of that. She still has like some.
But the problem with trying to do that with Frank is he is on the run the entire episode himself. He's got to hide the entire episode himself.
Yeah.
So he can't just be out there busting criminals doing any random, evil act because he's got to hide.
Yeah.
So maybe if you get past that, maybe with his slate wiped clean, you can have more of an overarching story with some more of the criminal of the week getting busted at the same time, but not in season 1.
Yeah, maybe. So maybe season 2
I
is
don't know.
more of it.
And
I was about to say I'm excited for season 2.
I
'cause
say-
this one was pretty good.
Well, I say that because that's one of the kind of issues I have with the way they took the story, because you could have wrapped up Frank's family dying at the end of Daredevil season 2, and then season 1 of Punisher could have been an overarching villain, and he's not on the run. And you could have had some of those smaller stories underneath it.
That's
I think they tried. No, I'm saying it could have wrapped that way instead of doing the story that they did.
That's literally what I told him last night.
And
it
that would have been
is.
fine. But since they took it the way that they took it, and I'm fine with the way that they took it, since they took it that way, there's not that opportunity to do that same
this
thing.
felt like a season 2.
Oh, it definitely does.
Yeah, this felt like not a season 1. This felt like this felt like there should have been a season of Frank killing criminals, and maybe there's an overarching plot, and then season 2, he finds out, the government killed my family. Like,
Well-
this is way bigger than I thought. Like, maybe Russo knows he's alive in season 1, and then you come back around season 2. Like, he finds out at the end, and then he comes back season 2, and the entire time he's lying to him. Like,
Yeah, Daredevil felt like Punisher season 1, Daredevil season 2 at the same time.
Yes.
I mean, it did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't. That's why I said this isn't a bad show. It's just not the Punisher that I was expecting.
They also really killed this character really quick.
I was okay with that. He wasn't a main villain. He was just there to start the plot.
Oh, fair enough.
But he's there to keep Madani from investigating, so you have to get rid of him quickly, or Madani can't investigate.
That's fair.
So that didn't bug me at all. That made sense.
I do think it's kind of interesting that some of these old guys. I get it. If you were in the military, you know how to fight.
Oh yeah,
But when this guy's obviously like mid 50s,
probably.
okay, you probably still know how to fight and you're relatively strong, but you're fighting a peak fitness Frank Castle. You shouldn't
This
be staying in the fight that long.
This guy, I feel like, was handled more realistically than Rollins, though. Rollins literally gets stabbed in right here. This is where, like, near the heart, and he's still walking, beating Punisher in the face, like, still talking. Like, there's no lapsed breathing of any kind.
Yeah, he would have punctured a lung at the very least.
Yeah, and he's like perfectly fine. Like, he's like super villain fine, and I'm like, you shouldn't be, especially when he like went through the whole, like, the first time around when he got his face beaten by Frank, and he's on the floor screaming and like, then he lost his eye because his eye got damaged because of it. So it's really weird that he was able to just now suddenly take a knife to almost the heart and be fine.
Yeah.
So, Micro is great.
I like the guy.
Is a great character.
I like the character. I
him.
like the actor. He was good.
I will say one of my favorite scenes is immediately after his wife kisses Frank.
Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh.
That whole drunk sequence is one of my favorite sequences of the show.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of great moments between Micro and Frank. I do like the friendship that developed there, which is why I was like stunned that they decided
to separate him at the end.
Yeah, separate him at the end.
I really wish they wouldn't have done that.
Well,
I felt like that would have made the ending so much better.
But they felt like, and I read about this, they felt like keeping Micro and Frank together, Micro would overshadow the story too much. and he would become a crutch for Frank that Frank doesn't need in the comics, never needed. It's nice to have the guy that you can go to for intel if you need it, but he's not his sidekick like Robin is to Batman, and they felt like keeping them together was going to make him like a Robin to Batman, which is not what he is in the comics. And I read that in an article.
Yeah, but Frank still goes to him.
Yeah,
in the
no,
comics
and he could
quite
always go
frequently.
back to him, but they didn't want them to end the story
well.
together because then he becomes Frank's Robin or Frank's
Yeah.
Alfred.
But
Well,
they should
And
have.
they were like, we don't want that.
Well,
They shouldn't have wrote him
Cameron's
out
telling
of the
me that
show.
Micro was basically in the comics. He was basically
He's like
Frank's
guy-
man in the chair or
He-
whatever.
Yes, he is a guy in the chair.
Yeah.
He's not in every single issue. He's not around all the time, but he's still Frank's guy in the chair.
And
whenever
that
he
was
needs help.
their intention if they kept this thing going
Mhm.
was to be able to reach out to him occasionally and go, hey, I need your help on like episode 4 of a 10 episode season, not, hey, we're going to do this whole journey together. They wanted him to be more of a contact when he needed help, but not his Robin.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they used it to write him out of the show.
So
Like I don't think he comes back.
no,
In
they said
season
he's not back in season 2,
Oh,
but I
Yeah.
don't think they were writing him out forever.
Oh,
Based on the article
Oh,
that I read,
yeah.
they just wanted to be able to spot check with him and
Makes
not.
me hope that this special presentation for Punisher that's coming out that
Maybe
John,
they bring him back.
John Bernthal is writing, by the way. I hope they bring him back because that would be kind of cool. to
He
see.
was a good character.
He was a good
really
character.
was.
He was fun.
They did a great job with him. I just
Oh my god.
I do think he's in a lot.
this scene,
Oh.
Jesus Christ. The introduction to
Oh.
this scene.
Yeah,
That was hilarious.
No, it was gross.
It was hilarious.
I looked away from most of this just because I was afraid that
Cameron's still underage.
I didn't know.
You can't watch those scenes.
I didn't know how far they were going to take it because this show was already taking it really far. The only thing they didn't do is drop an F-bomb, which Punisher did in Daredevil season 2. So I'm shocked that they didn't do that here.
Yeah.
I'm shocked they didn't do that either.
But that's about as far.
Here's that scene you were talking about. He's about to shoot through the window. Bulletproof.
Yeah.
Bulletproof
Just
glass.
bounces right
that
off.
first initial sniper shot from that scene was intense.
Oh, yeah.
Dude,
Oh my god.
That made you question everything about Frank's parenting
yeah.
right there. Like, you thought that was the way to solve it with this kid who's not even yours.
It
No.
worked.
It
Eh.
did.
It worked. And actually, technically, Micro, while in the moment, was like, "Oh, you don't do that. You don't touch my kid." Like, kind of realized, "Oh, that did work, though."
Yeah,
like,
but you can't watch this show and then take that to your kid and be like,
No,
this is how I'm
no.
gonna approach this.
God, no.
Nope.
no, that is a case by case basis.
You're going to prison and they're gonna say, what inspired you to do that? And you're gonna like Punisher. I watch Punisher. I watch Punisher to punish my kid.
But as
Stick
far
a knife to their throat.
that first episode as like that first sniper shot was really really cool. The one where he's like across the Mexican border, shoots the guy.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
That was a really
cool way
clean
to
shot.
open the show.
Mhm.
That's why I thought we were gonna get a lot more than we did. Because I was like, oh man, they're starting the show this way, so we're probably gonna get some crazy stuff, and then you don't get crazy stuff until like the last 3 episodes.
Yeah.
So,
But
But-
the story made up for it. The story was
the
so
Yeah,
one
yeah.
scene that like really like got my how would I say it, my inner, I guess, a gun nerd or whatever, was whenever they actually showed the gun wall and
Oh, I told him
Cameron's-
to pause it.
Cameron told me to pause and he was like, okay, what's here? And I listed out almost every single thing that was on the wall.
nice.
yeah, that was a cool moment because
It made me happy.
I didn't know that they were gonna do that, so I was just like, oh, that's cool. I wonder what he has on his gun.
He's
wall.
got a lot.
He's got a lot. Those were his colonel's guns confiscated by the CIA, and then they were trying to lure someone to buy them,
Yes, and he got wind of it and took them all.
and
Yep.
but they were technically his guns that he stole from his colonel.
Yes.
Yes.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I couldn't remember if they actually specified that or
Yeah,
if
they
it
did.
was like, okay. because he was like, I need to know where my guns are. And he goes to Turk. And I'm like, your guns aren't there.
The explosives he crafted from the light bulbs were very interesting.
That was cool. That was cool. I didn't know Lewis was going to create a bomb. I kind of figured he would, but I didn't think
I
that's
told
at
you.
all.
I told you ahead of time. He killed kids on the show.
Killed kids.
Yeah, that was a daycare in that building.
Oh,
I told you he killed kids on the show. That bomb blew up a daycare in the building, and they showed the kids right before the bomb exploded.
I thought no, those were coworkers all celebrating a birthday party.
No, there's kids.
Pretty sure it was just a coworker that brought a birthday cake out for another coworker. It was like an office birthday party thing.
Pretty sure not.
It is because it wasn't a daycare. It was a gun. That was where the secretaries who ran the what's it called? Which gun organization was it? I know it was brought up in the show, and I can't remember which one was it.
I'll go back to it
I
later.
don't remember.
But anyway,
But the one thing that I've really noticed with some of these, I guess, shows similar to this, and even in like Law and Order and whatnot, whenever they have or like introduce a character that like knows how to make bombs or whatever, for whatever reason, they always like to use the dead man switch.
Mhm.
For whatever reason, that's just like the most popular thing to do in a show.
Is it because it's the easiest?
I don't know. I honestly think it's just supposed to be more for like suspense and whatever, which it
that's
really did, especially in
because
terms of
if he
him
just
taking Karen hostage.
if he just had a bomb with a timer on it, Frank could have just shot him and grabbed Karen.
Well, true.
Yeah, rather than a dead man switch where he actively is holding Karen and she would go with him.
Yeah.
So,
I don't think when he had crap. What was the guy's name?
Curtis?
Curtis, thank you. I don't think when he had Curtis, he had a dead man switch.
No, I don't know what
he
that
had
was.
Because he could just dial in on the cell phone and blow it
Oh,
up.
yeah.
Yep.
Also, I
I
have seen videos of claymores going off. They are no joke.
Well, here's that scene I was talking about where he gets stabbed in the chest.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then this is the following. Like, how does he keep going after that?
Yeah, again.
It was deep in the chest too. I was looking at it too because I'm like, that's not. He grabbed like this big piece of like glass or something, and then just lodged it in there. Half of that piece of glass is
There it is.
right there. Half of it,
And he
is
does
in
it a
his
bunch of
chest.
times.
Yeah, like how is and he's still breathing? Like, that's crazy. Oh my
Now that I'm
god.
thinking about it, I don't know if YouTube's going to like this.
Oh, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
This video is on YouTube.
Oh,
So-
well,
True.
fair
Well, it
enough.
depends on age rating, but
The fight video is on YouTube.
Yeah.
yeah. But Frank telling the kid to
God, I hate that Billy caught on way too quick.
yeah, I was
That frustrated me.
well, see, you were like, Frank, you're a terrible shot. I was like, no, Billy just noticed.
Yeah.
Like but Curtis kind of gave it away. Like he paused for too long when making the coffee, and he made it a little too obvious with the windows. So it's kind of Curtis's fault that he caught on as quickly as he did. But I mean, he was probably going to figure it out anyway because he was like, Curtis is being too calm right now. Like there's no,
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know why he didn't right there. I mean, and you know guns probably better than I do.
I was going to say, I don't know why
Why-
he didn't just try and go through the wall.
Through the wall under the window. He saw him drop under the window.
Yeah.
Why didn't he shoot through the wall? So he's got what, a 50 millimeter?
No, that's probably 308 if I had to guess. Or it may have been 50 BMG. If it was 50 BMG, it could have gone through that wall, no problem.
Yeah, I was just like, why doesn't he shoot through the wall?
It would have made a lot more sense, but then it leads to this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's fair. So,
Frank telling the Lewis to,
but like that's a mistake. Sorry, before we move on from that, that's a mistake like I would make. You wouldn't expect Frank to make that mistake. Like
Yeah.
I would use the wrong gun or not shoot under the window. But this is a military guy with a military background
I don't
who's an
think-
assassin.
I don't think it was a
Yeah.
mistake as much as if he shot him and because he doesn't know exactly where he is behind that wall
Yeah, he does.
to some degree, but I mean, he can't like he doesn't have like an X-ray to be able to go, bam, you're right there.
No, but he can shoot. He's got the window. He knows
Yeah.
he dropped below the window.
Right.
He can
but
shoot under the window a couple of times.
I guess. I just mean at the same time,
He didn't even
Instead-
try, was my point.
I don't think it was a mistake as much as like maybe he wanted this to be more of an in-person thing. To be fair, Billy also
not with that
Billy
first shot. I'm sorry.
cheated.
There's no
Bi-
freaking way.
I will say Billy cheated though. That was he could have
Yeah.
fought way more fair. That was crazy that because they're about
Wh-
equal.
Why would you expect a fair fight from anybody?
I'm
Because they
just
both
saying,
said, "All right, let's do this fair."
I couldn't tell what he did to the teenagers until after this fight was over. I guess
I couldn't really tell.
I guess he
either.
slit their wrists and then bound them up so they would bleed down their arms. But he never called straight attention to it. Probably because they were teenagers and they didn't want to. But he was like, they're bleeding out. I'm like, how are they bleeding out? Like, you didn't. What did you do? Because the strap was like over their clothing.
Yeah.
So I was like, what is happening right now? But I got my
It
guess
was
is
so hard to tell what exactly he did.
Yeah,
to
and they
him.
didn't focus on it. They moved on pretty quickly once
Yeah,
Donnie got shot in the head.
All right. Overall, this series.
Oh,
I liked it.
Lewis. So Lewis goes into the freezer and then blows himself up. But what shocked me is Frank didn't kill him. Frank didn't try to talk him down and have him arrested. He told him to do it.
Well, okay. So,
He did?
Yeah, he told
yeah,
him.
he did. He told him to do it.
Oh,
So, there's, I think, a sense of not remorse necessarily, but recognition that he was in the wrong. Lewis.
Yeah.
yeah.
And he was going to do something, and I think Frank knew, like, you're gonna do something to make up for what you've done because you know you were wrong, and I don't have to do this. This is not
Well,
a death
see,
that I
I
have
thought-
to commit.
I thought Lewis only did that because Karen had shot him in the foot, and he was like, "Okay, I have nowhere to go. I'm just gonna go straight into the freezer." And then,
Oh, you thought he was just gonna hide?
yeah,
Nah. Yeah. I knew he was gonna kill himself. I just didn't think Frank was gonna be like, do it.
Well, I think Frank, I think Lewis knew, like, I was gonna die. I'm gonna die. Maybe I wasn't in the right here to begin with. I'm about to die, and Frank's like, I don't have to do this. You're gonna take care of it. You do it.
To be
You
fair,
made this mess to begin with.
he
You clean it
killed-
up by killing yourself.
He killed what he killed. Well, he killed regardless if it was stolen valor or not. He still killed a soldier, an ex-soldier. Was it other than honorable discharge for him, or was he?
I
don't
didn't think he
remember.
served at all.
No, O'Connor did serve in Texas. He just didn't go to Vietnam, like he said. He enlisted in 1977 or
Okay.
1970. Like, yeah, it was after Nam.
I thought he did.
But no,
I
he,
thought
I
he
think
got
he was
rejected
only
from the
on
military.
he was on
base
a
or something.
yeah, he was on a base in Texas, but he never actually fought.
Okay.
he
See,
was
it's been so
claiming-
long since I watched it now. That's what I'm saying. I forgot.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
in my head it was that he enlisted and got rejected.
No, his whole story was that so he went into the Marines, I think. It was either Marines or Army, and it was in Texas, but then he claimed that he went to Nam, got both a what was it? He got
Like a silver star and a purple heart or
something like that.
There was
yeah.
a silver star.
Yeah, silver
Okay.
star from the president himself.
Yeah.
and that he was on stage, and then when he got off, people were like booing him and telling him that he shouldn't have served, and like calling him a piece of crap. And
Yeah,
he's like, I didn't get anything when I got home, which is not true.
because he never left in the
he
first
never
place.
left in the first place. He
Yeah.
just served out his he did a service in the States. So that was where the lie came from. That he had fully served and he got a silver star, which isn't true. But where was that coming from? Oh, where did I start that? I had a point with that.
Something involving Lewis, I think.
I don't remember. I lost it. Sorry. No, it's fine. But yeah, I do like all the portrayal of the military for the most part in the show. I like that Frank is still a Marine at heart. So, whenever he was on the military base, even though he was there to kill corrupt soldiers, anybody who wasn't in that, he was like, I don't want to kill you.
Yeah.
This is just something I thought up of. I wonder if this show was made for all the conspiracy people. They're like, oh, the government's doing shady stuff. And
I mean,
they show shady stuff that the government did in another country.
It's not, and this is a thing. This is a thing that I thought about when watching this show. Everything that you watch that's military related always depicts corruption.
Yeah.
It always does. But the fact is, it's not interesting for television to see the daily life of a non-corrupt military. So there's not a story to tell that is going to, because drama and controversy drive views.
Yeah.
And so there's not a story to tell if you just got a bunch of guys who are training and keeping their skills up and doing their daily tasks and monitoring things, but there's no active war going on. That doesn't make for fun television, even though it's important. And I think that's why everything that you see with the military, there's always some kind of sketchy stuff going on. And I think that it almost gets unfair because it makes it seem like there's something shady going on in the military every day. And I'd like to believe that there's not, and that's just not fun for television.
Well, and Frank
Fair enough.
Frank makes the point in the show, and even Billy makes the point in the show that, when you're in war, the legal morality of things isn't really up for discussion at that point. It's more about survival. So the stuff that you do over there may not constitute legality the same way that it would here. In some, there are war crimes, yes, but if self-defense is a lot easier to pull over there than it is over here because it is war.
I think you have to be more responsible, not less.
No, I'm not saying you have to be less. I'm just saying that you can't compare the two necessarily the same way. You can be more moral over there, as you can be just more.
You're representing the greatest military in the world in a foreign country. There's more responsibility to not do stupid things, in my opinion.
Oh, I'm not saying do stupid. I'm just saying that in a more not morally going out and doing illegal stuff. I'm saying morally in a situation where you have to make quick second decisions in the U.S. versus outside the U.S. in a war zone. Those are two completely different things. You can't judge those the same way.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Also, why is it that anytime Kurt pops up that they just really like to just have him in a bad place and they beat the crap out of him? He's always getting beat up in all of his appearances.
I do like Kurt, though. I actually think he was better than Falcon at the because mostly Falcon pretty much gives up on it as soon as he becomes Falcon. I think Kurt going out to different people's homes and talking to I love that actually he even admits.
No, not Curtis, the other guy. Kirk? Is it Kirk?
No, Curtis.
No, Kirk.
What are you talking about?
The arms dealer from Daredevil.
That's Turk.
Turk. Okay, Turk. I meant Turk.
No, I meant Curtis.
He's just a punching bag.
Yeah,
That's
I guess so.
Turk is just a punching bag.
Turk is a punching bag. That is how it works.
That actually reminds me of one character that I enjoyed the little bit he was in the show, and it almost comes out meaningless once you get past episode 2 or 3. And that is the young guy from the construction crew who tries to be friends with Frank and tries to give him the sandwich.
Oh, yeah.
And then ends up in the crew for the robbery.
He's only in episode 1, and that's crazy to me because he has no role to play for the rest of the show. He's just gone.
I know, but they all try to kill him, and Frank, for all the "I'm not your friend, I don't want to buddy up with you, stop talking, thanks for the sandwich, stop talking."
Yeah.
At the end of the day, he saves him.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, even though he was a criminal, like he was part of that crew, he just messed up, and so they tried to kill him for messing up. Frank didn't kill it.
I love that it was pure happenstance, though. He didn't go and try to stop him at the gambling thing.
No, yeah.
It just, they tried to use the construction site to kill him, and then Frank just happened to be there on a night where he was like, I want overtime.
Yeah.
He's like, I want to go smash that wall because it's different than falling asleep and seeing my family again.
Yeah.
And then he just hears screaming. He's like, let him go. And he doesn't. I just love
And that guy, the leader of that crew, had it coming. And you're just, from the moment you see him making fun of Frank and calling him retard and all that stuff, and you're just like, oh my gosh, he's got it coming. I can't wait to see him get what's coming to him. Yeah. And he did. And that was, I mean, we breezed right over that. But for me, that was so much fun to watch.
Yeah.
That's episode 1 just feels like it almost is a different show. And almost doesn't feel like
there was your criminals that he busted that were not military.
That's what I'm saying.
Fair enough.
Like that's just the weird part to me though, is that that episode comes and goes and it doesn't really have an effect on the rest of the series.
That's okay. I loved it though.
I just wish there was more of that. That episode was really good. Except for the opening. I still think him quitting makes no sense. But outside of that episode is still pretty good.
All right. Well,
as far as final thoughts, it's pretty, I can't, I'm not going to say it's not a bad show. I hold the belief it is a great show. It's just not a great Punisher show. I think it's got a good story, but for my preferred Punisher story, I really like Ray Stevens' portrayal of him from, I think it was Warzone. I like the Punisher movies. I like the movies because I feel it feels more like Punisher because he's like an 80s action hero brought to life.
Well, maybe we can watch the movies and discuss Punisher versus Punisher versus Punisher.
Versus Punisher. There's 4 of them.
So
oh, jeez.
maybe we can do that.
Okay.
But not while we're still working our way to Daredevil Born Again.
No, yeah.
So.
We'll do that when the special presentation comes out. We'll compare each because that'll be a better comparison. Is like the 40 to an hour long, over an hour long movies.
Connor, final thoughts?
I mean, I enjoyed it. It's another good Marvel show, and for this basically being my introduction into Punisher, because I know nothing about him from comics or anything like that. I thought that they did a really good job portraying his character.
No. I feel the same way. I felt like it was a great intro to Punisher for me. I've never read the comics. I didn't watch the movies. I guess Cameron watched them at some point.
I didn't watch the movies either.
I didn't watch the movie, so I have no history, no background on Punisher, and I enjoyed the show. I do feel like it was kind of a follow-up season 2 to Daredevil season 2, Punisher season 1. But I mean, overall, I thought it was good. And I enjoyed the way that they took it. I think they could have gone 2 directions with it, and they chose one. And I don't have any problem with the direction they chose. So, with that, next up is Jessica Jones season 2. I know Connor is super excited about that one.
I literally, he was like, last night, he was like, finally, Daredevil season 3. I was like, oh no. He's like, what? I'm like, yeah, you're gonna be disappointed. He's like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "It's Jessica Jones season 2." He's like, God.
"Jessica Jones season 2. We're gonna try to get through it a little bit quicker than we got through Punisher,
and the first season of Jessica Jones."
And meanwhile, we're gonna have to tackle Ironheart.
Oh yeah,
in about a month. So hopefully we can get through a couple of these before Ironheart comes around.
There's something else.
Lilo and Stitch.
I'm excited for that.
And
Jurassic
Predator,
World.
Killers.
Speaking of
Predator.
And speaking of Lilo and Stitch, Gantu is not in the movie.
I saw that.
They removed a core character out of the animated film.
Well, we'll talk about it when it gets here.
I guess we will.
On that note, if you like what you heard, then like, share, subscribe, ring the notification bell, leave us a comment, leave us a 5-star review or a 1-star review, but hopefully 5 stars. And we'll see you next time.